Right, I think we're recording. Excellent condition. Just move that out the road. Right, apparently I am live now, so let's go to cameras. Where's the cameras at? Right, I'm live. Take my glasses off, can I see? So I've got the camera set up again, as you can see, the one here. We are live and we've got excellent connections, but as you know, we could lose it. So I've got to keep an eye back on the computer to see if we do lose it. And for some reason, we do lose it for about 2 minutes and I have to stop and start again, and then it settles down. So if it freezes, I'll try and keep an eye on it so I can see. See, the thing is, it won't freeze here, so I don't know. And Alan's here watching the screen on the television, and it won't freeze. It just freezes on YouTube. So just bear with me. If it does freeze, I will eventually see it after about an hour and a half, knock it off and start again. So it's not quite 10:29. So I've got this camera set up. So I'm going to swap to this camera in a second and do the pastel. And this is the one we're doing. This is a photograph I took down the park on Tuesday, and it's the road, the pathway is just leading up to the castle. There's a lot more light in than the photograph shows, so I intend making it a bit bonny, not bonny, but some nice contrasts on everything. So I'm just saying hello. Janet's there, Alison's there, Alan's in the studio. Them black marks on there are just where I was just testing my new palette, new pastels, Diane Townsend, very darks, very chunky. So I'm going to try them. What I intend doing is blocking in first, and then just sort of soften it, spreading it out so that I can put more pastel over the top. So I'm going to do a blocking in section. When we did the watercolour of this sort of scene, a similar scene on yesterday, we started with the background and come forward. Here I'm putting the forward parts in and then going on top of it. So we'll switch cameras over. Can you hear me all right? Because I've got a new microphone on, so I'm hoping that you can hear me okay. I'll just tone that colour down because that's a bit bright. Reset the colours. That's better. So that's more like your natural colour there. So I'm going to stay on here and just try and keep looking to make sure that I've got connection. At the moment I have. Right, I know you're 15-20 seconds behind me, so I'll have to not look at the camera and look at my picture. So I'm going to start, honestly, I'm going to start. So like I said, I'm going to use some of these Townsend pastels first and block in. And the beauty of these, I'll put them here, the beauty of these pastels is the labels come off, which I find good. So you can just put the labelling back on and you've got the number. If I remember to do it, I've got the label. So I'm going to take that label off for the moment, and I will put it back on, and I'm going to block in where the main tree is over here. You can see I've already just tried a sample of these pastels. They're very dark, so I'm just going to get an area of the tree in. Yes, Janet can hear me. Right, I'm just going to get an area of the tree in the darks, and remember my hand might go off the top, but when I come down to doing it properly, I'll move the camera up. The camera's that close, you can have the bottom or the top, but I'm not painting right to the outside edges anyway. So we're getting a block in of where this main sort of tree is. The tree trunk's going to be like there. That's going to be sort of the main tree trunk in that area there, going up there. So all of this just blocked in foliage, the overhanging branches, like that, down into there. And like I said, I'm going to block this in, and then I'm going to flatten it a bit, spread it a bit, and then put colour over. So that's going to be the main tree coming across. In fact, it could come just a little bit farther, I think. It could come just a bit farther out of it. I'm not too happy with the overhanging branch of light coming right into the picture, so I might just tone that back. So I put that down. That wants to be overhanging the pathway like that, down the tree, and then the sort of shadow going across like that. So you've got a tree trunk, shadow going across onto the pathway like that, and then you've got other colours just behind. So I want to put a little bit of this violet into here, like this, into the tree, just to catch the light a little bit. Like I say, I'm going to block it in, and then I'm going to actually blend it a bit before I actually do some hard pastels, because these pastels are that soft. If it fills the paper up too quickly, I'll not get any more pastel on. And I don't want this to be a green picture. I want it to have, there's a little bit of the same colouring just there. I want it to have some sense of vibrancy in it. Now in the back, I'm also using this to keep my chalks clean. So all I'm doing is wiping my chalk on there to keep it clean. In the back we need some lighter sky. So I'm just going to get a little bit of pale blue, like that, and just put the sky in, sort of across here. Again, I'm not too worried about filling it all in. I'm gonna use instead of using my fingers, I'm going to use a brush and just spread the colours a little bit. So that's coming down like that through there, into there, and then just gradually getting slightly greener and darker as it comes down. So I want a sort of a darker bluey type green, nothing too bright. So I'm just putting this sort of green in here. This is the blue earth, very soft. You could either the other one scratchy more, where this is more softer. I'm just sort of pushing that up in amongst this area here. We've still got excellent connection. Elaine, looking long time since I did pastels. I like pastels. I've just find myself, I've just spent a fortune on pastels. So we're just blocking in, like I said, getting down. And what you've got is some, I'm going to put some darker colouring in just to get an area. So I'm going in the background. In the background, I'm just going to use a sort of a paler blue, where the like that, just into there, where I'm going to put the grasses, because I don't want the grass, the farther fields, to be as dark, to be as bright. So I'm toning them down with a little bit of blue across there. So got that level there. So it's about there, into there, and blend some of that up into that. These trees are in the background. Morning, Jennifer. What's she saying? Message. I can't see it. She said something. Right. So these are going in the background like that. This is background bushes, which we don't want to be bright, because if we have them too bright, that picture you're looking at, Alan, and there's very bright. Yeah. Alan's watching on a separate telly, which is, the screen's a bit vivid for it. It is too vivid, that. Right, so I'm just, you can see the picture anyway. You can see the picture, so you know it's not as bright as that. Jennifer, morning. I've sent for the Unison Pastels. Oh, good, yeah. Yeah, I've just got some of these Diane Townsend this morning. Well, they came yesterday afternoon. Just got them in the gallery. So all I'm doing is blocking in. So getting that into there. I'm going to put in some dark areas for the paths, etc. So I'm going to use, what I'm going to do is put some reds into the green area. This is sort of the foreground area. In fact, I'll drag it across the path. And the reason for that is, I'm going to go over it, but if you can leave little bits of the red sort of poking through, it accentuates the greens. So just putting a little bit into here, just sort of blocking colours in like this. I'm going to make the path darker and then lighten it up as we go along. So a little bit of red. So I want the path to be on the darker side. So I'm just going to get some of the the Townsend pastels, these darker browns and earth colours that she's got. Get the label off if I can, there you go. And just make the pathway that's going to go across down here darker. So the pathway is going to come out here and it's going to go sort of across here and into the background over there. And I think that shadow of that tree wants to be a bit higher. I think I need this tree just a bit higher. So I've got them blocked in, little bits of colouring into here, and I'm going to now actually, I want to fetch that tree in from the right, so I'm just going to put a bit more dark. I'm going to use the brown, and I'm just going to fetch in this overhanging tree over on the left, on the right, sorry. That wants to come in across there. So what I'm going to do now is, normally I would just wipe it with my fingers if I was doing it, but it's that soft, so I'm going to use a brush and just sort of push this in, blending it all in, so that when I put pastel over it, it can have more tooth. Otherwise I'll fill in the paper with the pastel. So I'm just using this soft brush. It's what I use for actually for acrylics. We still haven't lost anybody yet. So I'm just pushing this colour in. You can see all the dust flying off. Our Lynn will love me for this. Like I say, I haven't gone right to the edge because it'll be mounted and framed. So I'm just blending the colours in, pushing the colour into the paper, so that when I add more pastel over, it takes to it easier. I think that shadow is maybe just a bit too low. Actually, I'm quite happy with that. I think that's finished. Right, so we've got that in there. So now just build up the levels of the colour and stuff. So we want the tree to come out really strong. So I'm going to use a really strong dark of these Townsend ones and put in some dark area of the trunk. And I think I've made the shadow down a bit too low. So I'm going to take the shadow a bit higher. So this is going to be the tree. This is going to be the tree trunk. Going up like that. Across here. And down about that sort of thickness. So getting the tree trunk in like that. And instead of fetching the level down like I did there, I'm going to make the level go a bit higher. Otherwise we'll have too much darkness down here. That's going to be the tree trunk. There's little branches I'm going to put in afterwards, but I just want to get a sense of darkness off this edge here. And we're not losing any connection at the moment, so we seem to be fine. There's another tree just over here, but I'll just lightly suggest it. I don't want actually to have that tree competing too much with this one over here, so I'll just sort of lightly suggest where that's going to be. So we've got the tree, just side of the pastel now, and just create a few slightly darker areas here and there. So you're just building this tree level up, just dotting in a few dark. Keep it darker at the top so you get a nice overhang. And as far as sky goes, etc., the sky's just going to be pushed in. So is the foliage behind, just creating little holes in this pastel. So it's coming out like that. Just building up the darker section. So you're building up a real darker area down here. Across there like that. I've got more dust falling down with doing that stupid brush thing. I'm going to darken down into the pathway a little bit with the same colour. I like to use some of the same colours going through so that you get a unity to the picture. If I'm losing concentration, it's because I keep looking at the blinking screen to make sure I haven't lost everybody. So it's the same very rich dark brown Diane Townsend pastels. I'm just creating a darker foreground like that, building it up, cross into the grasses here, because you've got quite a lot of strong shadow. And see how some of the reds just show through, which just gives you that little bit of colour. It sets the greens off a little bit more. So just dusting it in like that, building up the levels into there. Right, I'm quite happy with the length of the tree over there. Nice and strong. So I'm going to remember all the time, I'm keeping these labels on my finger. I'm going to remember all the time to put the label back on. For the moment, in fact, the label's stuck to my finger. Right, so I'll remember to put it on. It's not going to happen all the time. And I'm going to go back now to the purpley, violety colour that's a Townsend pastel. And I'm going to start putting in some lights onto this tree. And just blur them at the moment. I'm not intending to actually... that's bright, Alan, what are you watching on there? You're better off just watching me. Just blurring them at the moment. I'll put some sharp edges, but I don't want too much detail off that. What I want light is off the background through the trees. So just sort of flicking in a dusting of it. Just creating this sort of light. A few little spots up here. Like that. And if you sort of, what you don't want is too hard of an outline, a silhouette. So you want to sort of blur it into the background a little bit. I'm going to put more background in here. But I'm just sort of building up little levels. And break it through the tree trunks a bit so that the tree trunks aren't just a solid item. You want to sort of make it look as though the leaves, the foliage is coming through there a little bit like that. So just this sort of dusting. Keep standing back to have a look at it. That's looking fun. I'm going to darken just above where the trees are in the distance. I'm just going to use the same colour and just lift some of that blue up into them trees, them bushes that's just behind here. So I'm just going to lift some of that colour into there. Sort of goes through there. You'll see it better when I put the light of the field in. So a few little dustings of the same colour I'm using over here, just into here a bit in the background, so that you get a sense of unity of the colours into there like that. Right, put the label back on. I'm going to get good at putting this label back on. So what I want now is some greens into here, dark greens for the moment. Just some of the foliage wants some dark greens in, so I've got a really darker green here. These are the Ludwig pastels. Somebody else messaging. Oh, Helen, it's your dad. Your dad's here. It's your daughter. Your dad's here, Helen. Have you got a coffee? No, you haven't bothered. No, all right. Right. So I'm going to go with a darker green. These are the blue earth ones. Very, very soft. So I want some overhanging greens here. Just sort of pushing it in. I'm not actually trying to make too bright of a statement on these, because I want them to be dark, like silhouetted over what's going to come behind, the light that's going to come behind. So I'm not making them too dark. The tree has a bluer effect up here, but there's always some little bits of green. So just in here and there, just some little touches. You vary the colours in, so you're not just... Oops, camera's gone off. Can I see? Yeah, that's all right, still there. So you're not sort of having just too solid dark. I want dark here, so I'm going to just put this darker green coming down, just dusting it over here and down into this area here. So this green is the stronger foliage. In fact, I think I can go stronger. I've got a little bit of darker green here. Same colour, the blue earth. So I'm just going to make it stronger in the overhang of the bushes down, the branches just hanging down here towards the background. Just here. And sort of hangs down into the shadows. And there's your shadow off the tree going across the path. So that's your shadow off your tree trunk. Make it darker there. So you're getting this darkness down here. And a few little bits of green here and there. So we're getting the light, but not making it too bitty. Do you know what I mean? There's some nice splashes of dark, and I'll put some little splashes of light through it so that you can see, look as though you can see behind. Just into there. A few darks just across where the sky is going to be up there. I'm running out of this pastel, it's getting smaller. So I'm just trying to create this dark. And the beauty of using a darker paper is you're not too worried if the paper shows through, because you've got plenty of colour in the background. I'm going to add just a little bit of light onto the side of the tree trunk, just to fetch it out, but not too bright. So I'm just going to get a little bit of the lighter Diane Townsend and just sort of drift in a little bit of light onto that trunk a bit, just catching, so it's not just black. And while I've got that, I'm going to put some more colours into the pathway, because we've got reds and darks. So I'm just going to drag, so that shadow there gets wiped out, and that your pathway is going round there and round the back. So that's going to be your pathway in through the picture, coming forward and up to here. Don't lose all the darks on the front, because you want a feeling of dark shadows into there, like that, right? So put my label back on that, because I like putting labels back on. And what I'm going to do now is put some sense of a little bit of sky coming through here and there, and then some sense of greens coming down here. Don't make the sky too bright. Don't make it the same colour as the sky behind, because if you do, it bounces out too much. You can always add to it. So just here and there, I'm just going to hit some dots into it. Hard pastel, just breaking it up as though the sky is coming through in places like that. And you can see a little bit of sky just in that area. I will put some lighter bits in. We've got excellent connections, so we're still working fine. So just hitting bits of blue into it, and there's even a little bit of blue sky just here and there, like that, just little flicks into there, and some just up here. Don't know if you can see that, can you? You might be off camera slightly. I'll tell you, I'll tilt the camera a fraction, like that, so you can see that, and I'll fetch it down after. Because if I take the camera too far away, I can't get near the picture. So just a few bits of sky here and there, just slash it sort of in so that you can see through it. You're not trying. This is the opposite way of a watercolour, where you would paint the sky first and then drag the tree across. And we do want a little bit of more colour into here, so I'm just going to get a sort of a more bluey violet, and I'm just going to dot a few little patches into this tree here. Nothing heavy, just a few sort of dots. I don't want to paint individual colourings all over. I don't want to sort of put individual leaves in. I want to create a mass. So just a few like looser patches that's just coming through here and there. And these colours work nice, because if you put some lights in against these, that's when it stands out. So we've got them just dropping over the edges a little bit, just a few little bits into there, and I'll make this tree differently altogether. So now we want to come down and create some, in fact there's some lighter blues just sort of drifting down here a little bit, just on the foliage, just behind where the foliage is drifting. There's just a little sense of plant and growth just there, just behind the tree. No data, we've stopped. Right, I'll knock it off, people, and start again. Oh, it says excellent connection again now. I'll have to keep an eye on it. Very abstract, it is. I've got excellent connection, so if you've lost me for a second, I'm back. It's got nothing to do with my side, it's just something that's happening. I'm forgetting what I was doing. Oh, just putting a little bit of this bluey colour this in the background, just a little bit over there, so into there like that. Just dotting in. So now I'm going to put a darker green in. I'm going to put a darker green in here and then a lighter green. So I don't want it to be dead bright at this stage. I want a duller green. So I'm just getting a duller green and I'm just going to, there we go, that's fine. I'm just, still excellent connection. So I'm just going to suggest little bits in between the trunks. So there's your trunks, and we can put some individual branches through afterwards. So in between the trunks, I'm just dotting in some bits of green. Just that little bit of lighter. So we're just creating some lighter edges, and then just underneath that branch there. And then there's actually a branch coming down. So there's a branch coming down. So I'm just going in between the branches and just dotting and getting a separation of the tree trunk. Do the same on this side, just dotting a few through. Not much. Like I say, you want to create a mass so that when you stand back off it, it all blends together. So I'm just creating a few lights in between. There's the trunk. I'm just creating a few sort of lights to the side of the trunk, so it emphasizes the trunk a little bit, so you can see the edges. I'm going to go in lighter. Don't worry, I'm going to go in lighter. I'm just sort of just dotting in some little bits of light here and there. This light is going to go into these trees in the background. So this light here, what I'm doing now, is going to go into these trees. So just there, in amongst them leaves, them overhanging leaves, is going to be a background blur of foliage and trees. And then obviously we need an overhanging tree here, which I'll darken down in a second or two. So we've got that. So what we need to do now is use some lighter greens to create seeing through. So some lighter patches. So you're flicking in some hard light. So you've got, because it was strong sunlit day, so you've got to get the impression of strong bits of light coming through that tree trunk. Just a few flicks in here and there. So you're looking through rather than just dark patches over. So just bigger patch just there, and then few little dots down here, so you're getting a feeling that there's stronger greens here and there, and you just seeing light patches through it. Still got excellent connections. Connection good. Didn't lose you. All right, it went for a second. It said data lost, but never mind. That's all right. So creating these lighter just flicks in here and there, so you're creating a sense of the light coming through, and you want the same light in just behind the tree trunk, just there behind the shadows. You want that same sort of sense of light across there, like that, and through that side. She's got the light there. Fence is going to come in just round about here. So this is the lighter area like that, and then you want some little bits of patches where you can see through the tree here and there. Whole idea is you're looking at the overhang. I'm just touch them a bit so that they don't become, I just want them knocked down a fraction, so I'm just tapping them a little bit. And I don't want that to be that bright. I'm going to tone that down a bit because I don't want it to be too bright. So I'm just going to get a slightly duller green and just put some other patches in here and there, slightly duller so it's not so bright. Got to be careful that you don't end up dotting too much into this. You want this feeling of light showing through. and these are the trees behind. So this is the blur of the tree, the bush that's just beyond the path. Just beyond the path, there's a blur of bush just there, like that. And then the green field in the distance. Just going across like that. So you've got the green field going across that area there. I know on the TV screen to me right that Alan's watching it. It looks like somebody's gone balmy. It's so vivid, but that's the television screen. Into there, and you've had red. Just drift it over a little bit so parts of the red just show through. Don't sort of obliterate the red. Just little dots into there. So you're just creating little bits of greenery into there. Odd bit of light into there. There's a lot of light. The green that's up here is actually a branch coming across, and I'm not too sure I want that branch to be in too much. Maybe a little bit of it up here. So maybe a little bit. I don't want to fill right across with this branch, but I want it to sort of come in front of this tree a little bit. So I'm just going to block a little bit in. And instead of going right across, that's about as far as I'm going to go with that. And just fill that into here. So you're getting a tree in here. And these are lighter branches through, which we'll fix in as we go on along. Get through there. So what I want to do, I'll just clean that pastel. What I want to do is push this in the background a bit. So I'm going to use a little bit of sort of paler blues. Nothing too extravagant. I'm just wanting to try and find a colour. I'm going to use a little bit of pinky purple first, and just sort of drift some colour into these bushes that's behind. I'll emphasise some of the tree branches that's coming off that tree afterwards, but I just want little bits of colour, and I'm blurring it out a bit so that there's nothing too contrasty. And this is meant to be the trees in the background. And the sky. So just tapering it in. We have tree to come across from this right hand side, so just tapering it in. I'll put a bit more lighter sky in a second, and just getting little bits of this background colour over the greens, so that when you stand back and look at it, it's just, the sun is just sort of hitting it distant. And you want some light under where this tree is going to be here, because you've got overhanging branches, but you want some light in across there. So just a little bit of light just dragged in and just blended a fraction. Still got excellent conditions, so we're looking fine. And I'm going to drag a little bit of this pink into the bottom, so I'll just tilt the camera down a bit so that you can see that area. So I'm just going to drag a little bit of this into here as well, so you're getting the colours blending, so you're getting a sort of a unity across. Not a lot, and just push it in. See, by having a warmer colour behind the grasses, you will get the grasses to stand out nicer. A few little touches in there, and just dragging the same pink through into the greens a little bit, just blurring it so you get a sense of the colours just coming across like that. And then gradually, as you're going back where the pathway is going to be, put some pinks into that pathway, just building the whole level up. We're going to lighten the path up quite well and darken the trees down. So I've got them into there like that. Quite strong, this picture, quite vibrant. What I want to do now is just get a little bit more paler colour into the sky. So I'm just going to get a paler blue and just touch into the sky a bit. Sorry, I'm that close and I can't take the camera back any farther. So up into the sky here. Remember, this is going to be cropped. You won't need to see all the edges where the edges are, because I'm going to crop the picture. I'm just putting a sense of cloud in and dragging a few bits of it in between these greens and in between here, so that you get a feeling of the, whoops, see how easy it breaks. They just break quite easy, just little touches here and there, so that you can just see through the tree into the sky. There's quite a little bit of brighter sky just there. Just see through that, and if you just dot a little bit here and there, then it breaks that tree up a fraction so you can see through it. And that's all right. Just where the pinks are, I'm just dusting over the pinks, not trying to obliterate them. And I'm going to fetch in the greener tree, overhanging leaves from this side any second now. Right. So I want this tree here to be darker, but not as dark as that side. So I'm going to use a stronger colour, a stronger greeny colour, and fetch these trees forward here. This is overhanging tree coming from the right, so it's coming up here. Remember, I'm going to punch lights back into this, punch foliage back into it and sky through it. So you've got some little patches up here, and this is sort of overhanging from the right, from this tree trunk here. I keep catching the camera with my elbow because I'm having to sort of lean to the left because he shoots to the right. Malcolm Franklin will understand that one. Right, into there like that. Fetch them forward, overhanging, and they come forward. There's a branch there, so you can sort of suggest the branch, and then you can put it in sharp afterwards. And then they come forward and into this greens that's just coming in front of that tree. This tree is sort of there. Actually, what's happening here is a tree near me that's not even on view. Not that tree, one near me that's got overhanging branches. So it's in there like that. Just get it blocked in. And then this tree here has a lighter feel to it, but I'm putting it in dark for the moment. And then we're going to hit some lights into that and blend them together. So this is really just sort of overhanging on this side here. I'm going to lean over the top of the camera right now and put it in. Looks like somebody spilled a bucket of paint when you look at the camera over there. Somebody's gone balmy with paint, but this is looking all right as far as I'm happy with it. We're just getting it established, the darks and the lights, and then we're going to really go into it with lights. So we've got the darker green. We want some lighter green kicking across. This is the foliage that's overhanging just on the picture, just on the side of the picture. If you've got the picture, it's just overhanging in front of the background. So it's just overhanging in front of here and just blending back. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the screen for you. That's it. So just coming down here. So just a few lighter and nothing heavy. I don't want dots in here apart from the background. I want just a sense of some of the light just catching the foliage a little bit, and some of the bits that's just sort of hanging down off the branches up here. So I'm just putting some brighter bits in here just to get these overhanging bits down that's in front of the background. And I'm going to turn these just a little bit more bluer. I'm just going to get a little bit of blue into here so that it's not too bright. So just a few little bits of blues just added in. And some sharper bits for overhanging branches, overhanging leaves, etc. into that tree there, a little bit of blue into the tree. It all sort of adds to the effect and builds the colour, blending some colours in, other colours on the other side, so you just get that sense of unity in, rather than just being a green, a dark green. I just want to put a little bit more, can you see that, just a little bit more blue off some of that foliage, but not make it too bright, just a little bit of foliage just coming across that tree trunk just there, down there. Right, just put a bit of blue up here. I'm gonna blast some light through this tree so that you can see behind it where it's overhanging. So I'm going to put some light into this branch here. So we want it green, but we don't want it to be bright green like this, otherwise everything's too much. We want just a sort of a sense of greens just behind, so a sort of a cooler green, and you're just trying to hit some sense of trees through it, some branches through it, so just little patches of this green here and there, so just little patches catching the light, just dotting through. The best thing to do with this is just to keep stepping back so that you can see where you're at. I probably need to lighten this background a little bit where the foliage is in the distance. I'm going to just get a slightly bluer colour, because I feel it's too bright, that green, so I just want to get a feeling of, that's just a bit too dark, just get it a bit lighter, a sort of a green shade but lighter, because I want to get a feeling of the tree, the bushes in the distance just feeling a little bit cooler, so I'm just sort of blending them in, and where the overhanging here, but it's especially up here. I just want to hit into these trees to suggest holes in the foliage overhanging, and seeing the other tree just behind it, the other bushes just behind it. So just hitting in lights like that, just accents up to here. All you're doing is breaking up the branches, breaking up the foliage, just creating that sense of light through, and then a little bit more bluer sky up the top. So just in here, just some lighter patches of sky breaking up this area here. And then I will put some lighter foliage in amongst it. I'm just trying to create that illusion, and I'm going to take some of this light just through here on the other side, just through there, just quite a bit more intense light just kicking through that top there, so intense sort of sunlight just there, and I'll drag probably a little branch or two through it. Now I need just some little touches. Blur it though. I don't want it to be, you're not looking through here. This is meant to be foliage. Just too bright, that. I'll just tone that down. This is meant to be foliage just overhanging on the edge a little bit, rather than looking through. It's just a softening of the foliage just hanging down. Right, so we need some greens in the background now, and we need some greens coming down. So we need a brighter green to come down through here for this hanging foliage. So we need some stronger greens coming down. This is meant to be where the sun's just catching some of the edges. Still got good conditions there. Connection good, yeah. So we're just creating this lighter foliage, just sort of hitting across the picture. and some of it back up into here. Don't put too much back up into here, and you don't want, where you've got holes of bright greeny, the sun's over here hitting that. You don't want holes in here. It's meant to be sort of in the distance and subdued a little bit. So just a few little greens. And we're going to put this foliage coming down and in front of this tree here, so it's overhanging. Like I said, I don't want to go too far. The picture goes farther, I don't want to take it farther. And this is the tree that's actually hanging down above my eye line, really. Like that, getting that into there. And just keep my eye all the time on this camera. Right, I need to tone that down a bit, get some greens into there, but not bright greens. So just a little bit of duller green, that's better, into here, so you just get a feeling of overhanging foliage. Just sort of dotted down, fetch it from the top. A few little bits through the tree trunk. A few darker greens just come. I'm going to lighten the background just a little bit because it's just a bit too dark just there for where I want the contrast. A few little bits of tree coming up here. You can't see it, but all I'm doing up there, I can go up a bit, is just dotting bits more in. And I'm going to put some branches in to this area which will define it. And you'll see where you're at with it. Just blur parts of it. I don't want this to contrast too much with the other side, so I'm just sort of blurring it with my fingers a little bit. So this looks as though the sun's blasting from behind, and this looks as though the sun's just to say catching some edges, but there's a canopy of trees, and I'll put some branches in to show you that canopy of trees. So I'll just get one of the darks, get one of the Townsend darks and put some branches in. So we've got branches coming along here like this, just overhanging down onto the foreground, and I'll lighten the foreground up behind it. I want to put the dark parts of the tree in before I'll lighten up anything else. So this is the dark tree coming down through here, which sort of, and break it up, don't make it one solid line, break it up so it looks as though there's foliage in between, you know, so it's not just a long continual line through there like that. And one or two darker sort of sense of foliage coming up, even a darker area coming off there. But mainly this is overhanging trees, so most of your branches want to be coming down and a sense of overhanging foliage in front of that tree. Just crisscross through some of them like that and just build up this level of branches through there a little bit. One or two there. There's nothing over here. You can sort of suggest a little bit of foliage coming out, but to be quite honest, just leave it slightly blurred because it makes them more distant looking. Don't make it too sort of blasty, too sort of hard edges across it. Right, I'm going to lighten this background a bit with a few sort of just pale pinks, etc. So it's just go in between the branches, going in between the branches. And just lightening that up a bit. It was just a bit too dark. And then pull some colour up. I'll get some pale blues as well. Just pull some colour up so it looks as though you're looking through this canopy hanging down here. Into here. I'm just going to dot one or two just in here so you feel as though you can see through little patches of this hanging down branch. So just want to feel, I don't want to do too much onto this right hand side because I just want it to be in here. So I'm just going to get a paler blue. It's more like a violet, and just add a little bit of light here and there into this, just so you can see through there a little bit. Just blend that in a little bit. Got to be careful that you don't do too much. Somebody is ringing me. See if I can knock it off. I cannot. Oh, there, I can dismiss. Right, sorry about that. Right, so just adding some little bits of, not much, just some little accents here and there, just so you feel as though you can see through these overhanging branches to the background just there, and just adding a few pinks into that. What we've got to do now is establish the real light. That tree there wants to be just slightly darker, so sort of a darker blue. A darker blue just on the left hand side a little bit, so it's just feels as though it's just in shadow just a little bit. And a few little bits of darker blue just here and there in that bottom end, so you're creating shadow under the foreground trees. That's looking all right. What we've got to do now is get some light down into here. So I want this to feel distant but not dead bright, so I'm going to use an ochre into it rather than the brighter yellow. So I'm going to use an ochre in there. Excuse me. And just push some ochres in. So it's catching the sun, but it's not bright yellow. And do the same just across here. One or two little dots as though you can see through that dropping down overhanging bit. So one or two dots in amongst the tree itself. Fetch that out there, you're right. Yeah. There's water downstairs if you want to drink of water or anything. Yeah, you're okay, right. And then just slightly, there's my paper gone. Just slightly put a sense of foliage back there, but cooler. So you want a cooler green, sort of a cooler green, but light just back there. So you just creating this. I've got this cooler green. I'll just sort of clean it off on there so you get a cleaner edge. And I'm just going to put this in across from under that bush there, and then I'm going to push it in really hard. But I don't want it to be dead bright. I'm pushing it in hard line across that edge there, and then just dusting it into the rest of the stuff, leaving some of the pinks and things showing through. Leaving some of the pink showing through, and just creating a sense of the grass and the fields just farther on. It sort of comes along there, and then this bush is in front of it a bit, and then just across the bush, in front of the bush a little bit. Lose that dark there. Like that. A little bit of this green into here. This is sort of your foreground grasses coming down through here. Can you see it? I'll turn the camera. No, you can see it, can't you? Yeah, you can. Turn that down there like that. Just a little bit of flatter green just here. A little bit into here. They've got all these nice shadows to put in the foreground. I might just add a little touch of the green here and there, up there, just a few little flicks. Just it's the same green, but I just want a little sense of some light coming through that tree in the background. So just little dustings over your reds, and just dusting into your reds, and then I'm going to start getting into the pathway and get the foliage looking strong. So for the pathway, I started off dark, but I want to really get some stronger colours into the pathway, stronger shadows. So I'm going to use some violets down into these shadows. Can you see it? All right, yeah. Excellent. Oh, we kept the connection going. So I'm putting some, for the shadows, I'm putting some really strong violets into the shadows down here. Just getting along there, and I'm going to trail once I put the light in, I'm going to trail from that tree. I'm just going to trail some of that violet just across the pathway. The pathway is going to be lighter, trust me, but I'm just sort of trailing some violet type shadows across here. The reason why is the colours contrast nicely. I don't want Payne's grey shadows. I want this to be a bright, vibrant feeling of colour, a riot of colour. I'm just adding little touches. I'm going to use the same just in a few little patches of the shadows, the darker shadows, just a little touches, not actually going right over it, just little touches and just little bits here and there. So you get, when you put the greens over it, you get some of these violets showing through in the shadows. Like that, so you get a nice sort of strong colour into here. And then I want to just get some nice ochres in as well. So I'm just going to get one of the Townsend pastels. Wait a second, I'll just get the label off. A light ochre. Clean it on your paper so you get rid of any dust that's come off the actual other picture. Right? And then put some light ochres into here as well. So you're just creating, and you're going over the reds. The reds are showing through, you're not losing them. Just a few little bits kicking across in the background. Through there a little bit. Into there, that's fine. I've just crumpled the label. I shouldn't have done. Right, putting the label. Now I want a real light. I want the light to be catching that pathway that's over there. So I need to get a really light ochre. I don't want it bright yellow. I'm getting a really light ochre from the Ludwig ones. It's sort of a palish green, and I'm going to make the pathway in just here. It wants to look as though it's just vanishing round the corner a little bit and fetch it back. And if you move the pastel at slight angles like that and just drift it over the sort of the purplish shadows you've done, but not fill it in, you can get this feeling of strong sunlight. So there's a shadow there off this tree, there's a shadow there coming off that, but just here is the more brighter light, just capturing into these edges here. You're just creating the shadows, just little dots in, so that in between the shadows, so the shadows look as though they're dappled. So little bits of light into here and there, like that. Get that just built up. So we're coming through into the light, and then I just want to make it a little bit more warmer, a little bit more yellower, but not too strong, just into parts. So just a little bit touches of a lighter yellow, but not bright, just little touches here and there. So you just create it and dapple it, little flicks into your shadows, so your shadows look broken. The shadows don't want to look solid, so little just flicks into it. And take that light across your grass just over there. So you're just taking it across the grass, the same light as you're using onto here. In fact, you can probably drag one or two little patches into your background a bit, so you just catch some sun in the background like that. And then get a pinky colour. You want it pink because we want some warmth, so you need to get a nice pinky light pink, and create some light into this pathway here. Little patches. So what you've got is dappled shadow into this pathway, leaving some of the blues, just little touches, and create this real feeling of shadow. Just keep stepping back from it to see. Just little flicks. Take the flicks just out as though the path's getting wider out here, like that. I'm going to put a bit more pastel over that far path so that it just feels lighter. Put broader patches just in front of these shadows, and then a few ochres, just a little few ochres, just to get a little bit of light into it as well. So just a few little patches of bright ochre, so you feel as though you can see part of the pathway into there and across here. And then just a sort of a dusting of the ochres into part. It's nice to have the bright slashes, but you also want a feeling of softness in parts. I'm going to just lighten that up over there because I feel it's just a bit too, it wants to be stronger. It wants to feel as though that is in the distance. The shadows are here, that's fine, you can have the shadows through here, but that just wants to be feeling it's going around the corner and just coming in a little bit more light into here, so the shadow doesn't come right across, so just a little bit more into here and a little bit more just across like that. I just want to break up the shadow between this tree and that tree, so I'm just going to take the light through that area a bit there. That's better. So you've got a shadow coming from down here, but a stronger shadow in the foreground. That's all right. Intensify that a little bit. Got the pathway there. Right. That was sort of a lighter green. So what I want to do now is sort of build up the colour into the foliage down here and down here. So I'm going to use various greens and ochres and just build it up. I'm even going to use some pinks first, so you get a sort of a little bit of colour just drifting, and put them in with the little bits of pink like that, just tracing them in here and there and soften them so they're just softer in the background. And then I'm going to put some harder edges in, even put a little bit of the same pink into parts of that. In fact, lighten it up a little bit. You've got to sort of step back, keep stepping back and having a look as you step back. Right, still got good connection, so we're looking good. So just a few splashes of pink, and then we need some brighter foliage in here and there. So I'm going to start with darker colours and crisscross. So I'm going to get a little bit of the darker greeny colour off this Townsend and just create some darks in where the shadows are coming across here. So I'm just sort of pushing some darker foliage in down in this bottom area, a little bit into here. I'll green it up a bit so it won't be too much of a contrast, but just down into this area where the pathway is coming through, you just want some darks. The same over here. So sort of a silhouette of foliage here just catching the light. So just blur it in a little bit, put it down there. Just little flicks crisscrossing, so you're just creating this sort of darker foliage. We need greens in, but by putting the darker colours underneath, you're creating shadows and shapes into it. And I'll just darken that into that tree a little bit. I want that tree will get lost just behind the fence, just there. I might make it stronger down there. So just little touches of pastel. What time have we got? 11:30ish. Oh, we're all right. So little bits of foliage in here. We've got dark there, so we're going to where we've got the dark of the shadow of the tree. I'm just going to put a bit more violet in there. Just make the shadows just a little bit stronger over that side. What can I see? I've seemed to have lost the picture for some reason. It'll look all right. Oh, I must have caught a button. We're okay though, still got the condition. So I'm putting some violet colours in around the bottom of this tree and into these shadows here. And just lifting a few flicks of it out across the pathway. Not so strong there, I don't want it there, but you want a strong violet in here, so that when you put the light in, you've got a strong shadow behind. Add a little bit of the violet into that tree trunk as well, just so it's not so black. I'm going to put a few more finer branches in up there in a minute. Right, so now what we want to do is actually build up the strength of the colour. So I want warm colours in through here. So I'm going to get stronger violets and just pull in some little patches of violet over the grass where we're going to go. But then I'm going to just actually push some greens into that, and some of it will show through. The whole reason for this is so that the whole picture sort of has a continuity. A few little bits over to here. Just sort of a dusting. Just sort of dusting in. And dust some of the violet into that shadow there that's coming across the pathway from these grass, from these overhanging branches. Just dust that in. That's it, right? I've got to remember, because I've got that many different colours, to put the colours back in the right boxes. So now we build up. So now we want some greens here and there, and just crisscrossing lots of sense of foliage, not just lots of little touches. And that sort of comes down into the shadow across here. So it sort of dulls out, not dulls out, but smooths out where your pathway is going to be. So you can put little bits, continual crossing. I'm trying to lean under the camera here. Continual crossing of little bits of grasses. And even dotting some up against the light. So you're dotting some of them up against the light you've got here. I'm going to put some real patches of light into there. And do the same over this side. Go through what colours you've done, but don't lose them. So where you've had violets, etc., and the darks, just build it up. Darker in this sort of shadowy area here. So you're just coming in with a darker shadow just through here. Into your reds a little bit with your greens. So you're just blending it in. So the reds show through, like, I'm actually using the corner rather than the point. I'm using the corner of the pastel and hitting with the corner so that it's a thinner line. And you want longer strokes in the foreground, and then obviously not massive longer strokes in the background. A few more in that side, I think, keeping the pathway like that. And then lighter still, so I'm just getting into me greens. These are me greens from Blue Earth. And the same principle, the corner, not the end corner, the long corner, just dragging down and just lifting grasses in. And then in the background, use the side and just create a little bit of softer grasses here and there. So you're just softening the shadows down, so your shadow doesn't get all the way over, so you're just going into the grasses that you've done. That's your shadow there, and you're just sort of drifting a softer green down. I'm going to put some highlights in over there, but I'm just sort of drifting it down over there because it's more distant. You don't want individual strokes. You want more distant feel of grasses just going past that up to the edge of that tree shadow. But I'm only dusting it so that you see other parts of the other colours just coming through. So I'm just sort of dusting it, and then just some individual one, a little bit brighter just there, just in that corner, as though there's a little bit of sunshine just hitting that corner edge there, and into here. Because you've got the shadow coming across, but you've got some lighter parts just here and there. You've got one or two lighter patches just over here on this edge, just catching a little bit of light here and there, and then just one or two just little dots of light of grass just hitting through like that. So just little patches of greenery coming through. Don't make this too many. I'm going to put some darker strokes over there because I don't want it to be too bright, and I'm going to put some lighter grasses coming through there. So I'm just sort of tracing these in. I'm going to get a little bit of the browns so we get a variation, not the dark browns, but sort of a warmer, where have I got it, a bit warmer, yeah, a bit warmer ochre here and there. So just a few dustings with this sort of warmer ochre. Whoop, just dropped that. So I've only got a little bit of warmer ochre left, so just dusting it in. A few little lighter patches with the side, so you create the same sort of feeling, but blended. So not individual strokes so much, but just a few little dashes here and there into that background tree. And here we want just a few little bits in, just dusting up into the. I'm going to put the fence in, but I don't want to put all the fence in too much, because I don't want it to overpower the edge. I don't want too many harder edges across there, but I'll put the fence just down the edge here. So all I'm doing is just dusting a few little patches of this sort of more browner ochre in here and there. And now we're going to go in with some harder foliage here and there. I'll pick that brown bit of ochre up after it's on the floor somewhere. I don't want to stand on it because it'll kill me. I stand on it and walk it all over the floor. Right, so what we do need now is some brighter greens in. So I want to put lighter greens in and then put some brighter patches in. So I want to put lighter greens in just here and there where you feel that the sunlight is just flicking through a little bit, and over onto this sort of more cut grass just leading up there. So just into that sort of cut grass. When you look at the picture, if you look at it, it's where they've sort of come along and cut it down a bit. Just brighter grasses just coming out there like that, and a few individual bits there as though you can see light through it. And then just using the corner, just sort of dust onto the edges a little bit. A bit lighter down in that bottom corner. Little bits just dusted into there. All I'm doing is just gently dusting in. I'm going to put some harder lines, grasses, just in front of the shadow so that the shadow stands out better. At the moment I'm just sort of dusting in, and you can see all the pinks and the blues just showing through here and there. And I want a lighter patch just across here because you've got that shadow coming down there, but I want a sense of lighter greens just going up. Dust the top a little bit, but just so that this shadow stands out. So I'm just putting light going into this area here like that to join this light up with the path, and then just dotting into it. Just dotting into it and leaving little patches of light here and there, just breaking through. A little bit of stronger pastel in there. I want that to be strong, so I'm going to put some more green onto it and just dot one or two just through the shadow so that you feel as though you're getting speckles of light hitting that shadow. And then I've got a really bright yellowy green. I'm dotting into the bluey shadow and in front of the tree and just creating some foliage just in front of the tree. So you sort of get the sense of grasses just dotted in front of that tree, and pull them down into the thing so they're not just isolated. So just drift them down, but harden some points. Drift them down, but harden some little bits so that you're just creating grasses in front. Don't lose the shadow. Don't lose the shadow, just little touches of green. And you can do this same light colour into some of this at the front. So you can just spot some little bits of grasses here and there off this area. Even a little bit just dragged into that there. That's softer, but I'm just spotting some individual ones here and there. Just blur some of them. You don't want everything to be too much. So just blur some edges. But you want that sort of light speculation. I just want a bit more light just behind that shadow with the same yellow. So you just feel as though you can see an intense bit of light just beyond the shadow. A few little bits of dots in here and there. That's all right. Use the same yellow into this green here and just shade it in. You don't need to do dots so much. Just shade it in. And then just get a white, a lighter colour altogether. Not a bright white, but a very sort of light, and just create one or two grasses just coming up from the edges there, just one or two longer grasses in from that edge. Break it up. One or two lighter patches here and there, just even in the background. This is sort of a very light ochre. It's not white, it's just a very light ochre. I'm just using it just to create a little feeling of some sunlight just hitting the background, but not, you don't want the individual bits, what you've got in the front. You want it just to feel, just blur that out a bit. You just want it to feel brighter in the background like that. So you've got that edge coming in there. I'm going to put some whites into this a little bit, just dotting some harder whites into that foliage over there. Got any more comments? No, everything's coming good, everybody's concentrating. I mean, there's not a lot of foliage, but there is lots of bits of white, whatever you call them. I need somebody who knows the grasses and the flowers to tell me. I don't want to get too bitty over there. I don't want to get too bitty, so I'm just sort of dusting it down in a few spots. A little bit more light catching that, and I think a little bit more paler green just catching that there, just into there, so that it's not so dark just there. And I'm just dusting that in like that. So just, you've got a sense of shadow in there just coming. I might take that shadow just across a bit more, so I might just get a little bit more purple and just take that shadow through there a little bit more. Just break it up. Camera's gone off. You haven't gone away, it's just I went away for a second. Just breaking that green up with a little sense of more shadow off this overhanging foliage and this tree. I don't like that tree too much. I'm going to see if I can do something with it. I might even just crop it off. But you want the fence in. Now what I want to do is actually put, using the dark, put some more stronger branches in here and there up here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more lighter green down here, just as though it's drifting down. Can you see just a little sense of more dotted green, as though you can see foliage hanging? And then I'm going to just just going to drag a couple more stronger branches into it. A little bit more light and shade on that distant tree. Right, get it dark and just create some thinner branches just in front of it. And one or two through here, just stronger branches here and there. So you've got a crisscross of branches. If you put it next to the lights, put the harder lines next to the lights, it looks as though it's just like a sparkle of light through it. Through there. And just down here, just a few sort of speculative bits of foliage just hanging down in front. And this is sort of a very dark brown, really. So I'm just trying to create a sense of overhanging foliage off this tree, but not too much. I don't want it to be too, I don't want to be too sort of contrasty. Just a little bit across there. Like that. And then this tree, definitely put one or two stronger branches coming off it. I'm dulling that down. I don't like the bright blue, so I'm just dulling that down. And I'm going to blend that. I don't want too many branches up there, so I'm just pushing it back with my finger a bit, because I don't like having too much branches over there. Right, what we need now is just a bit of light, and then we need the fence putting in. I think I've got enough sort of feel. I'm just going to get a really light ochre and just hit some lights into parts of this. So just a few harder lights here and there, so that the sunlight looks strong in this picture. Just into there, here and there. And then I'm going to finish it off with the fence, and then that should be it. I'm just going to drag a little bit, the same colour, but not a lot. I'm just going to drag a little dusting over that side of the tree, just as though there's light getting through and hitting parts of that a little bit. Not a lot. And this tree, I really don't like it. I might just crop it at that point there. I'm going to put a fence in front of that, down there. A little bit more light just up here for this overhanging branch just here. Just stand back from it and look at it. Right, fence. Don't want the fence to be too dominant. I might put a little bit in it, but I'm going to put a fence post out here and stop it just here. So I'm going to put a dark post just out from here. Not too big. Out like that. And maybe one more just there. You don't have to stick with everything that's on there. If you look at that fence, there's a gap between it. It sort of goes around, but I just want to sort of get a feeling of the fence like that and join that into this tree. So a few sort of final lines just across. And I'll put some light into this as well, so it's not just a black sort of silhouette. Darken down this fence over here. So the fence is here. The fence is sort of here. So I'm just going to make a darker area. Not too much there. And then I'm going to put the light parts of the fence in between. Rather than painting edges like we did there, I'm going to make this dark just down to here. And then put light in between. So I'm going to go under this fence over here and lighten parts of it up, so it's not just too solid. So a little bit of browns into it. Same with the crossing. In fact, I might just blend that past that tree there like that. And I'm going to put plants. I'm going to put something up in front of that because I'm just going to lighten it up a bit. I don't like it too much. I want a part catching the light, just on the top, just catching the light. And then just drag some foliage up in front of it. Just break that up. Wants to be a silhouette, but it doesn't want to be too black, too forced. just in between. Now this one wants to have a feeling of ochre going in between. So rather than paint the posts in and the dark, sorry, the posts down individually, I'm going to put the light over top of it. So I'm putting the light across it. Little bit of light across the top edge. In fact, I'll use a lighter stick. Just catching that top patch just there. That's fine. You don't want it to be too... In fact, I'm going to just drift a pastel over it. I just feel it's just too bright, and I don't want to be too bright. Just make that leading edge a bit stronger. That'll do. And then over here on the other side, just a light suggestion of fencing. Just going away in the distance. I'm not even going to put cross pieces in. I'm just going to sort of just create this fence coming closer to you, but just vanishing round the corner. There is a lighter bit of fence just on the very distant, and I don't know whether to put it in or not. I'll have a go. If it doesn't work, that's all right. That's fine. Just a little bit more lighter on the fence. What it wants to do is look as though it's coming off the shadow, so I'm going to have to push that shadow in there, because that fence should look as though it's beyond the shadow, that lighter part. And I think that's about right. I might put a little bit more light just onto that far field over there. Nothing dead bright, nothing too gaudy, just a little bit more lighter green. Just to create that lighter patch just over there. And to be honest with you, I'm stepping back. I'm just going to put a few little bits of light into these, break this tree up, just shade a little bit of dusting through it, so it's not too, I don't want it to be bits as though you're seeing through, but just a sense of lighter foliage on the branches just coming down and just blending it in a bit. I don't want too much distraction over this side, so I'm just sort of blending it in. And I think I'll darken some edges of that tree up, them branches up. Sorry, I'm just looking for a darker pencil. I'm going to flick something into them, but just a flick. That's all right. And darken down a little bit more. Wait a second, I want something darker than that. Just a little bit more darker, just where the fence is hitting the grasses, just to suggest an edge. So just a little bit of bluey green, purpley into there. I'm finished. I'm playing around too much now. I think I've got it. I just don't like that light down there. Let's just dull that down a bit. I think that looks all right. I'm going to put I don't want to go too bright up here. I don't want to put more foliage in. Maybe a little bit of touches of blue, just as though you can see through a little bit more up here. But to be quite honest, I don't want to. You kind of see that, can you? I don't want to get too much. A few little bits of bright sky just here and there. You can do too much. You can go over that too much. I think that's all right. I'm going to pull that back, pull that camera out and fetch the other camera in so that you can see it. So I'm going to just take this camera off. You can see it there at a slight angle, and switch to the other camera. Switch to the other camera, zoom in and lighten it up a little bit. 1 second. Where's the zoom gone? Zoom in, lighten it up because it's quite a dark camera. Yeah, so that's one view off one camera, and that's the view of the other camera, which is now closed in, so I'll have to zoom that one out. The cameras have the same zoom, so I have to zoom in and out. I'll put a mount round it. I think I have a mount. Yeah, I'll put a mount round, give you an idea. So there you go. That's sort of going to be the picture. Nice sort of bright scene, very bright, very intense, but when you get back from it, it looks good. It looks good. And I've decided on some of these pastels, I'll switch the camera and talk a little bit. Decide on some of these pastels to actually not mount them, but to frame them. Lynn's got some really classy frames now, deep mouldings, and I think some deep mouldings without a mount we'll obviously have to put a spacers in so that it doesn't touch the glass. Deep mouldings without a mount, and just frame them as is with museum glass on so you don't see any reflections, and it protects the pastel. Because the pastel actually is better than any other thing. Pastel's pure colour, it'll last as long as any oil painting, watercolour or whatever. There's pastels now, if you want to see, there's some beautiful ones up in, there's a small one up in the Bose Museum, but any pastels you've seen, the colours are there still, the intensity of them is still there, whereas some of the oils and watercolours by artists farther back are faded. Pastels will stay vibrant, so it's really looking a nice vibrant colour there. So I'm just going to clean my hands and just see if there's any comments on that. I need to put my glasses on to see the comments off the computer. I'm short-sighted. Well, I'm not short-sighted, I'm blind. Right, Helen, lovely. Thank you, Helen. Your dad's here and he's still awake. He hasn't fallen asleep on me this time. So it's got a nice intensity, which is what I wanted. I could have painted it looser, stronger and more detail. But I'm sort of on my pastels now. I'm quite happy to go for bright, vibrant colours and loose colours, so there's just splodges, just literally splodges of colour here and there. And I haven't done too much detail on there because I like it just the way it is. And I think that framed up will look quite nice. I'll take photographs of it, and you will get the videos of watching. Elaine enjoyed that. It was very messy. It's always messy. Well done, Dad. He's there, he's laughing at what he's stayed awake and he hasn't had a coffee. Beautiful, thank you, Janet. Pastels are messy. If you could see the floor, Elaine, and the bottom of my palette just here, you can't see, but this was a brand new easel. If you could see the easel now, it's definitely a mess. I'll just put the picture back on for you. I'll just tone down the brightness. There's a lot of brightness on that. I'm just going to tone it down a fraction. That's more like it. I've just toned down the brightness. That's better. That's more like the picture. So you can see the intensity. Jennifer, not sure I can manage though. You will, you will. You've got the pastels now, you have to have a go. The thing to do is to be loose. Don't try and be too like bitty with it. Big shapes. Go for the big shapes, then add lights here and there, and that works better. That picture, when you're close up where I'm at now, standing, it just looks like blobs. When you get back off it, when the camera's back off and you get back off it, and it's on a wall, it all just blends together nice. So you've got nice pathway, nice shadows, everything like that. So you will manage. So I'll take a photograph of it and put it on the internet, and then I'll send the video up to the archive. So I've got to edit it because it's different, but at least the connection has stayed this time. So I have to go because I have an appointment at 2:30 with bathroom people. So I've got to do that. So, right, so I'll just switch the other camera. That's worked fine. The cameras have worked fine, switching from one to the other. The microphone here has worked fine, I hope. So I'll say ta-ra. I'll say ta-ra to you, and I'll see you Monday morning, class. Be ready, be cool. I'll see you Monday morning. See you later, folks. Bye.